Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I have two stories to share with you in this very latest Moon Lambo hot jam, starting with this one from the Crypto Basic. Expert says XRP will feature in New Hampshire's crypto reserve next year if this happens. Then there's also this headline from you today. Blackrock in crypto talks with SEC. XRP ETF coming? Question mark, which is why my voice goes up like this, because it's a question. You know, it's fascinating that we live in a world, thanks to the way the election went down, where BlackRock is actually proactively talking about to the SEC about all sorts of ways that we can expand the dominance of crypto, broadly speaking. And we'll get into it a little bit later in the video, but I just have to say, the idea of BlackRock never jumping into the ecosystem of XRP in any capacity and just ceding that ground to the competition is absurd to me. Of course they are. And they're hush-hush to this point anyway, but the idea of them, never launching an XRP ETF, get the hell out of here. Now, it'll be a big deal when that news does inevitably come out, and I do think it's inevitable, because BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager on the planet, with over $11 trillion in assets under management. And this would materially impact the supply and demand dynamics for XRP. That's why it matters. It is a big deal, especially over a span of years and decades. Big money. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so into this first piece, again titled, Expert says XRP will feature in New Hampshire's crypto reserve next year if this happens. Prominent legal expert and founder of HODL Law, attorney Fred Rispoli, suggests that XRP could still be included in the New Hampshire Strategic Reserve by 2026. And folks, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the channel, but this actually is a big deal. And it's the way that most people outside of this article are portraying it is that it's a Bitcoin only thing. Well, Bitcoin qualifies most easily, that's for damn sure. But based on the criteria for qualifying, it's not going to stay that way. Oh, no. I do not think it's going to stay that way. So hang with me and you'll see why this is exciting. We're talking about XRP potentially being a reserve asset for an individual state. And I think that a bunch of states are going to follow suit, just let enough time pass. Crypto's adoption, that whole march, it's just going to keep moving onward. Anyway, piece continues. On May 6th, New Hampshire made history by becoming the first U.S. state to authorize the creation of a state-owned crypto asset reserve. The development came after Governor Kelly Ayotte signed House Bill 302, or HB 302 for short, into law. The law permits the state treasurer to buy Bitcoin, or, and this is what the Bitcoin maxis don't want to talk about, or any top-tier digital asset valued at $500 billion, and that's the market cap they're referencing, of course. According to HB 302, this investment should not exceed 5% of the state's funds. Folks, can you imagine if that gets maxed out and it's just like a few large cap coins in the fund, like, say, even if it were just like the top 3 coins by market cap, throughout the stable coins, of course. Say it's Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP. Then they max out 5%. And then every state follows suit. And then everything else in terms of adoption. Congratulations, folks. Seriously, this is like winning the lottery. That's what it feels like to me. I mean, it can be for regular people like myself, and so that includes all of you listening. Like, that's how serious the opportunity is here investing in crypto, and so I say congratulations to you because you found out about this so early that you have that opportunity if you don't bungle it. Because almost no human has ever invested in crypto. It's only like 5 or 6% of humans, whatever. It's somewhere around there on the entire planet. That's it. And way less than 1% of humans have ever bought a single XRP in their entire lives. And we've already seen the prices go where they are. What do you think happens as further adoption continues? In crypto, I mean, look, I understand that it's a small percentage of humans on a global scale that own stocks. Like, if you include not just first world countries, but every country on the planet, even third world countries, if you take a look at what percentage of humans own stocks, I'm pulling from memory here, but I think it's like 16%. You can Google it to get the right number, but whatever the number is, it's pretty damn low. That can be higher with crypto because crypto has actual functionality. So it can actually, so the idea that only 16%, because 16% or whatever the actual figure is, hold stocks, it's only going to be the same percentage that hold crypto. No, get the hell out of here. I don't buy that for a second, because you can do stuff with crypto. It's not just for investing. Yes, it is. And that's largely what it's being used for in these early days in crypto. I still consider even 16 years in, we're pretty much in the nascency of crypto here. But as you get into the billions of humans holding various cryptocurrencies, which I do believe is where this is ultimately going if given enough time, yeah, you're going to have a huge percentage of humans holding that. And so that's why you have the opportunity for cryptocurrencies to have way higher market caps than individual stocks. That's the answer right there in a nutshell, right? And so you imagine all of this. You're living at effectively the advent of crypto. Again, I know it's been 16 years, but people are going to look back 100 years from now and be like, wow, that was olden times, like the early days. Like you're living in that now. You are so fortunate to be born in a time where you get to reap this opportunity. There has never been an investment opportunity in the history of our species like this, and you get to live through it. And so congratulations to you for being here and for paying attention. Because a lot of people, hear about this and they're just skeptical, and then they never look into it any further. It's like, oh, it's the magic internet money. And then, it's a fair starting point. Like, be skeptical. I encourage that. That's like a smart starting point. But then to just stop after having the skepticism, no, look into it. Find out why you don't need to be as skeptical as you were to start. That's my point. Anyway, piece continues. It categorically mentions Bitcoin as the only crypto that qualifies for inclusion in the strategic reserve, since its valuation, currently over $2 trillion, far exceeds the $500 billion threshold. Now, interestingly, Attorney Rispoli emphasized that New Hampshire could still include XRP in its digital asset reserve next year. The legal expert indicated that under the new law, any crypto that hits a valuation of $500 billion this year could be included in the state's digital reserve by 2026. Therefore, he asserted that if XRP somehow achieves the $500 billion milestone before year's end, the state treasurer, under HB 302 law, would include it in the reserve alongside Bitcoin. At the time of writing, XRP is trading at $2.35 with a market cap of about $138 billion. Therefore, to reach a market cap of $500 billion, XRP would have to soar 262% from its current valuation. Now, folks, I don't make price predictions. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, this market cycle, but that ain't crazy. The idea of it getting there, not crazy. That would only be $8.53 per token. I mean, the fact that XRP is this price, and that's after being artificially suppressed for years, that should tell you something. Because I firmly believe, if not for the SEC intervening the way they did over the last several years, the price this very day in 2025 of XRP would be far higher than it is currently. And it's nice to see that it's been soaring. The market's playing catch up. But there's an untold number of people, businesses, institutions, so on and so forth, that didn't purchase XRP over the last several years who otherwise would have. There's an untold number of developers who otherwise would have built stuff on the XRP ledger who built it elsewhere. So it's not the end of the world. It's not a death sentence for XRP, but we got to play catch up here. And so if we're already here and we're still feeling, the ramifications of that suppression, that's just one more reason to look at the figure of $8.53 and be like, yeah, I don't think that's a high mark. I mean, certainly if given enough time, I mean, whether or not it hits at this cycle, I mean, honestly, those types of predictions strike me as fairly conservative. The $8 to $10 price predictions, maybe that is where the price lands. Those analysts could be right. But it strikes me as pretty responsible and pretty conservative. So if it goes way higher than that, I'll not be surprised. And then, yeah, you could end up with XRP being held as a reserve asset by a state in the United States, New Hampshire. That would just be cool. I mean, it'd be a cool starting point, right? Don't you think? I certainly do. And of course, that's not the only thing that's happening here. Talk about adoption, my friends. Here's the headline from Cointelegraph. Blackrock Crypto Task Force discuss ETP staking and tokenization. Wall Street giant BlackRock met with the Securities and Exchange Commission Crypto Task Force to discuss staking within crypto exchange traded products, or ETPs, and tokenization of securities the discussion could advance institutional interest in the crypto industry. Now, folks, the only reason that this is happening, and the reason that our net worths are going to be more in crypto than because of crypto, for those of us in crypto than otherwise would be, is because of the way the election went down. I don't care what your politics are, them's the facts. Way more money is flowing into crypto than otherwise would. And I know you could say, but it's just one country. It's just the United States. There are roughly 200 countries, depending on who you ask, because they're actually, not all of them are recognized by all people. That's a fun fact. Some say there's over 200 countries. Some say less. Setting that aside, United States, it's just one of many countries, but it's the largest capital market on the entire damn planet. So if the United States goes gung-ho in crypto, that is going to be that can result in ridiculous money flowing in and benefiting the net worth of people on a global scale who hold crypto on a global scale, not just in the United States. It's great for everyone. That's why this is a big deal. It just is. So speaking of tokenization specifically, and this is what is most relevant to us here, so I'm not going to read the whole article, but look, the XRP ledger, it's designed to tokenize stuff. And it makes sense to tokenize pretty much every financial asset that's on the planet. And there will be, fast forward a decade from now, we'll look back and see who the winners are. There's going to be a handful of chains that won. It's not going to be a one coin to rule them all type of thing, but there will be a number of blockchains that ended up getting adopted for tokenization of various financial assets. There'll be money market funds, T-bills, stocks, precious metals, so on and so forth, all that type of stuff. And those chains that get adopted for this particular use case, the native coins attached to those blockchains, they're going to thrive forever for as long as they're used for that. Even just that, set aside forget the rest of the use cases, which also obviously help, even just this one use case. And the XRP ledger has been adopted for this use case for over a freaking decade. It's been slow for the world to get to this point, but the XRP community has been preaching this and believing this would be the reality for over a decade. And it is happening on the XRP ledger. Money market funds have been tokenized on the XRP ledger. T-bills have been tokenized on the XRP ledger. And more stuff will. Gold's been tokenized on the XRP ledger. That actually first happened back in, I believe, 2015. So that's actually old news, very old news. But more and more stuff will be. And so when you get big firms like BlackRock taking advantage of this, that's where it can become highly consequential. Now, there's no guarantee that BlackRock would use the XRP ledger, but the XRP ledger's in the running, and all sorts of firms out there are recognizing that the XRP ledger just makes sense because it's tried and true. If you're going to do this type of thing, do you want to do this on a chain that just launched yesterday or one that's been battle tested for over a decade? Well, obviously, it turns out that the length of time existing is actually a factor you do need to consider. And you can't program that into a new coin, into a new blockchain. You can't do that. It just has to be. And XRP is one of the first movers. And so it just makes sense, especially with its blazing fast speed and transactions that are so cheap they might as well be free fractions of a penny. It just makes sense that XRP will be, and it is so far, one of the winners in the crypto space for the specific use case. And XRP is required to tokenize every asset on the XRP ledger, and it's required effectively as a gas token for literally every single transaction of these assets that are tokenized on the XRP ledger. So then when people want to invest in the crypto space, they're like, this XRP thing is useful. It must not be going away. I want to diversify X amount of funds to XRP. And it will be no more complex than that for many people investing in the coming years and decades. And that will just further cement the long-term viability and success of XRP and the XRP ledger. That's why this matters. That's why I'm highlighting this. And so we've been preaching this and believing that this would be the future for a long time. Now we just need to continue to see a certain percentage of the adoption go to the XRP ledger. And as long as that happens, but it just makes sense that it would. And there are other platforms where it's happening, like, for instance, HBAR. It's happening there too. But anyway, check this out. BlackRock also discussed tokenization of securities under federal securities regulatory framework. Securities are traditional financial instruments where the investor expects monetary gain, such as bonds and stocks. Tokenizing securities has many benefits, including faster settlement times, lower costs than with traditional finance infrastructure, and 24-hour markets. BlackRock already offers a U.S. federal debt tokenized fund called BUIDL, B-U-I-D-L. It's a play on HODL, obviously. They've got a sense of humor. The largest fund with a $2.9 billion market cap. Competing products include Franklin Templeton's Benji Fund. So this is highly consequential. This is the direction that we're going. BlackRock's talking about this stuff because they know everything under the sun is going to be tokenized on these platforms. It just makes sense. I just want XRP to get a piece of that pie. That's all. It's already being used for other stuff, so like we're already good as long as that adoption keeps persisting. But I want to see more of this, and I believe that we will. And that's not all, of course. Of course, you get this headline from me today. BlackRock in crypto talks with SEC XRP ETF incoming. The idea of a BlackRock launching an XRP ETF remains a subject of speculation. In late 2024, Jay Jacobs, head of BlackRock's ETF division, reportedly stated that the company would continue prioritizing Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs rather than branching into other altcoins. However, industry observers remain hopeful that BlackRock might eventually file for an XRP ETF, particularly if Ripple fully resolves its legal dispute with the SEC. Well, duh, that's already done, so we already know. Anyway, one such observer, Nate Garachi, president of the ETF store, believes that a filing is likely to follow once the regulatory dust settles. Right, and this is what I keep insisting. The idea that BlackRock, the largest asset manager on the planet, is just going to let all the competition jump in for a major coin like XRP, which, let's be real, is just going to keep getting more and more adopted. The market cap's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. I mean, there'll be pullbacks along the way, but it's going to keep trending up as years and decades pass. BlackRock's just like, no, we don't want that one. Just Bitcoin or, whatever other coins they decide to get into, because they're not going to... I mean, let's be real here. There's going to be a number of winners in the crypto space. The idea that they wouldn't touch XRP because reasons, come on. It's just a matter of time. And so but then again, that's the largest asset manager on the planet. And then over a span of years and decades, it'll be a crazy amount of money. And the reason this matters is all of these funds will be backed, these ETFs, they will be backed by actual XRP. That is why this matters. So the customer buys the ETF, they're not buying the XRP. They just buy the ETF. BlackRock issues the ETF. And then BlackRock backs that ETF by purchasing the XRP for the customer. That's how that works. Big freaking deal. This with tokenization, and that's separate from everything that Ripple and every other developer is doing, building on top of the ledger. And all the other companies that are buying XRP as a reserve asset and everything else that I've been highlighting for years and years and years. It's just the most amazing time to be an XRP holder, and almost no humans have ever even heard of XRP. So again, congratulations to you. You are disgustingly early to the party. The hosts are really furious that you've shown up this early. The party is not ready to start. What a great time of year. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Lambo.